Hello and welcome to Nerdicky. For nerds by nerds, I'm Nerdix Dave. Today I'm joined by Brian Cullen from Infinite Black, Creature Creations, Vast Grimm. Like you're over the troll bridge. You're all over the place now, man.
Yep, I'm everywhere.
Doing all the things. Well, welcome back. You've been on here quite a few times, and we're gonna do things a little differently today. We're gonna start off, like our normal live chat, and then in a little bit we're going to actually go to Wormfest together. While things are still being set up, I guess. If
Yeah,
you'd be so kind to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you.
sure thing. Well, Dave, thanks for having me on again. I'm always happy to come hang out and chat with you. I'm Brian Cullen. I am the VP of RPG development at Infinite Black. I'm the one of the two creators of Vast Grimm, a sci-fi hack of Merkborg. That's mostly what we'll probably be chatting about while in Wormfest. We have an upcoming convention, Wormfest, next weekend, online, free to anybody who wants to sign up at the link down below, I would imagine. I make all sorts of games. I love to sculpt and write and do design stuff and bring other people along to help make things. I've got a lot of other things that I've made in my past as well with my own side business doing plushies and squishies and fantasy setting. But I'm all into Vast Grim right now. I love the sci-fi, sci-fantasy aspect of it. It's really, I think, the thing that speaks to me the most of all the stuff that I've made because there's a lot of gross humor in it as well.
Yeah, it's definitely sci. It's more sci fantasy than science fiction. Although I think it
Yes,
leads
totally.
into it. I It's just it's not like really crunchy to support like hard science fiction.
No,
Um,
definitely not.
which I mean, to me, that's a plus, not a minus. Um, I don't need that depth to enjoy the game.
Right. Yeah. And I couldn't provide that depth because my brain just doesn't grasp it. So
Yeah.
why try and write something I wouldn't be able to do properly?
So you've been on a few times, and we've talked about Vast Grim in the past. You've been on to talk about when you launched Vast Grim. You also have talked about you've written Morkborg modules as well, and now we're doing Wormfest. What was the inspiration for Wormfest?
So we've toned back the number of conventions that we've gone to in the past couple of years just because of COVID. And now that most backers have their books and everything from the campaign, I wanted to try and create a place where people could play because there's a lot of people on the Infinite Black Discord that just haven't been able to get together with other people to play, and we also want to get new people interested in the game that are just now hearing about it. So I wanted to have a place where there's scheduled games where people can come and see if there's a spot at the table, have open game rooms where people can just be ready to run games and invite people, and then also have panels to kind of talk more about what it is, how to get involved with creating your own third party content. Because Bassroom has the same third party license that Merkborg has, where anybody can make stuff, publish it, and make their own money off of stuff that they make for the setting. So I want to just try and help grow the community and get more people involved.
So, are people making things for Vast Grim?
Yes, they are. There's a couple of adventures and supplements that are on itch right now. If you go to the Vastgrim website, I have a page there that has let's see, that has where people have that I've put in what people have created that I know about. I know a couple other people are in the process of making adventures right now. Some that are looking at going to print, some that are just going to do digital at first. So yes, and there's also some fiction written about recapping some games that one of the GMs ran for their group and doing it in a narrative format where they were writing it as chapters as though it was like a novella. So there's definitely third party content happening.
There should be a link down in the description that you can check out, Fred. Oh, found it. Good.
Uh,
That, that
Excellent.
that keeps me from checking the description to make sure I put it there. Although I'm fairly certain I did put it there, but I set it up at the beginning of the week. So with that, do you want to kind of give us a tour, and we can take a look and see what Wormfest is going to look like?
Sure, absolutely. So we're using this software called Gather or Gather.town, and it has this cute little video game like aesthetic to it. And I slapped in one of the ships that we've created and altered it a bit to make it work for the space. And this is one of our light cruisers. If you're looking at it, you can see that as I walk around, Dave's character is following me. And we're up at the bridge of the ship. Now, all of this area around here is going to be places that people can go, wander around, walk to. I don't know how zoomed in you are, Dave, but you can zoom in and out of the ship to allow people to get a closer look. But in the actual game rooms, when you go inside, there's seats all around the table. And if you go onto one of the seats, usually only people that are in the game will be able to hear that. You'll see that the background grays out. So there's 7 seats at this table. So say I have a game listed that it's going to start at 12:15. I could already be sitting here waiting for people to come sit in. And once the seats are filled, I can start running the game. And everybody's going to show up in the video channel up ahead, and everybody will then be able to interact together. You can use it just as theater of the mind that way, or share a screen and use a different platform like Roll or some other or a VTT. Now, when you go out, we're going to have a couple of game rooms that are going to have scheduled games. There's halls here with like a help desk that has like the schedule, so that if you press the X button, it should pop open the schedule window. Unless that may have broken because I just had to fix that link. But when you go to the map, it's going to have a map that has a list of what is where. We have a couple more game rooms that are going to be open gameplay, so that if you and your friends want to come in and say you want to run something different, come on in. We want to interact with more people and just kind of get to know more folks in the community. We're going to have lounges where certain times a day we'll have scheduled things here, like a coffee hour or cocktail hour, where people can just wander around and get to know each other. When there's more people in here, as you walk up to someone, the video comes in, and as you walk away, it fades out. So it's more natural, almost like actually interacting with somebody in the real world. And if you get too jammed up, you can press G to walk through somebody. See, as I turn into a ghost. And then coming down here, here's some other entryways in, and some little cabinets. And there's going to be little things hidden all over the place. We have a vendor hall. And as you walk into the vendor hall, if you were to look at somebody, you can press X once you're up at a banner, and then you'll be able to see the background of the vendor hall there. And then you'll also be able to interact with the people that are selling their things and talk to them. And we have a Nerdarchy booth in here at right here, as you may see. So it's gonna work out pretty well. We currently have 7 vendors. We're looking at possibly an 8th, and I can't wait for them to come share it. Then we're going to have in the Hall A. This is where we're going to have all of our panel discussions and things like that. We currently have about 7 or 8 panels lined up right now. And that's going to be where everybody else sitting in the seats will be able to hear us talk about all the different things that we have scheduled.
Limited space available.
And we also down here. Oh no, Dave, your video and camera disappeared.
Oh, I'm not sure.
Then we come down here, and we have an art show area. And in the art show, here you can press X and see different art that's part of the show. We have a bunch of different art that's from the various art within the vast Grimm universe and setting, and the various books that we've created. And then we can just scroll on back up to, that's pretty much the entire tour of the ship. You want to hang out in the lounge, Dave?
Sure.
Hey, let's sit on the couch together. Have a cup of coffee, see what's going on.
So all of that is very, very cool. And, it's funny because I've had these conversations usually about VR and, what things are going to look like in the future, going to conventions. And even like I haven't messed with my avatar, but the avatars, you can change them around and
right,
have different looks. I know when we played our game Tuesday Night Robin, the first thing they wanted to do was like, all right, how do I change my person? Right.
Yes.
So that's a thing. And, I just imagine that more and more of this is going to catch on. One of the press releases that Wizards of the Coast did, they must have used the same platform, and it was just set up to look a little bit more medieval. And like all the tables had crystal balls at them instead.
Uh
And like I had no idea what was going on. I told you about it, but I was sharing it with everybody.
right.
I had no idea. I thought I was just going to like a presentation where they were going to stream video and tell us about the things. The next thing you know, I'm wandering around bumping into people, and all of a sudden I'm in a video chat with them, and I found it very disconcerting, not knowing that's like the format. And I don't know, maybe it said it somewhere or whatever, and I just missed it. But
Sure. Yeah.
uh,
Hopefully, people will know that going in. I have a little video where I do a speed run through it, and you see all
yeah,
the video cameras pop up and see people interacting. I think it's going to be a really fun way to hang out. We're not the first people to do this. I know Exalted Funeral used this for their EF Con earlier this year. I didn't get to go to that because there was a local Atlanta convention that I was doing that weekend, so I couldn't actually pop in. But I hear it went really well, and I think it's a fun way to interact with people.
yeah. How difficult was it to use like the software and set it up?
The software itself was pretty easy. I mean, they have a very robust documentation area. So there were a
Yeah,
couple things that I got hung up on, but like now that I know how to do it, the most difficult part was really trying to size the art that we created for the ship so that it would be like something I did. The scale wasn't working right, so I'd have to resize it a little bit, do this,
yeah,
export it, re-upload it, export it, re-upload it until I got it to where it felt right. So it's not like there's a hallway here that's a little too big or a little too small, or we're walking through walls in weird ways.
yeah. So I wonder if this is going to be the future of conventions, or in addition, like imagine um going to imagine conventions that also have a virtual component to it. If having a setup where like they could literally have a vendor room where maybe there's Wi-Fi and cameras set up at the vendors booths
Right.
where they could like be in both locations at once. Although it sounds like a freaking nightmare to me,
Yeah, that
but
would.
also it could be very cool at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if you can have that behind you. Like if you had
Yeah,
your booth behind you and you're able to like actually grab something and pull it down, like, oh, what? You want the Wormfest poster? Yeah, you
yeah,
can totally buy that, or something, something like that. So you're actually interacting more. And I tried to emphasize that to the people that were signing up as vendors. For me, if I had a booth at a show like this, I'd want to be able to take orders like right here, be like, okay, you
yeah,
want you want this and this book and this GM screen and this set of dice. Okay, what's your email? Here, I'll send you the invoice for it so that you can go ahead and do the transaction that way, as opposed to be like, hey, go to the website and order it if possible, because I think that has more of that actual, customer interaction and getting to know the person that's the
yeah. I
people that are
wonder if you
behind
can
the
like
products.
do something with QR codes
Interesting.
where
Yeah, I
like
think you can do that.
you hold up flashcards
Uh huh.
and with the QR code on it they can pull out their phone and get the QR code and takes them, adds it to the cart or something. I don't know.
Awesome. Yeah, I think you could totally do that. I think also like if you had a limited product run, like if you only had so many products, you could have that background banner have a QR code on it,
Yeah.
like next to an individual product, and then just be like, hey, and then go right to the product in the shopping cart. You could totally do that.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I think there's a lot of room to experiment and see what it's all, what are the capabilities. But, for some people they just can't get to conventions. Conventions are
Mhm.
very very cost prohibitive, Like it's funny as someone who can, routinely get into conventions for free. I'm like, that's the least expensive of all the things
Right.
I
Yeah,
pay for.
absolutely. Yep. Getting there, the hotel costs, the
Yeah.
food while you're there, everything adds up very quickly, especially if you're not making money. Like, I'm
Yeah.
not going to a bunch of conventions just for fun because I need to pay the bills.
Yes. Yeah. As you as a vendor, but I'm even thinking just as like attendees, right? Like if it's prohibitive for someone to actually get to a convention, something like this where they actually get to interface and connect with other people, and in a virtual space, you're getting a little bit of the experience with wandering from booth to booth.
Right.
Um, I feel like that might even become a selling point, right? Like if
Right.
someone has a really good experience with this virtual event, Like that might,
Hmm.
be the impetus to get them to push to go to an actual event.
Sure, absolutely. Or and then there's a lot of people that still have health issues right now that don't want to go out and be around
Yeah.
the vast, like the large number of people that are at some of these shows. And this is a great alternative for them as well.
Yeah, so it's just opening up interesting possibilities in this space. And before you know it, like we're all just gonna have our VR headsets on anyway. And
I don't know. Maybe, maybe just jacked in and I never leave.
yeah, maybe. Yeah, eventually just jack in the back of our heads.
Yep.
Or are we gonna skip that and go right to Wi-Fi to our brains? Bluetooth to our
Um,
brains.
I don't know. I don't know. I think the worms will get us first.
I think we can only hope.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
are you
absolutely.
going to be running any Vast Grim games?
So I currently have one game scheduled
Yeah.
that is on. I don't even know when that is. Let's see. If you go to vastrum.com/the-events, that has our current schedule. I've got on Saturday a 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. randomly generated adventure because that's how I tend to run things with stuff. I'm like, okay, roll this, and I consult the charts in the book, or
Yeah.
sometimes consult charts from some of my Google Docs for things that have not been published yet, and just make up the adventure as we go.
I at this point I played in a lot of games with you,
Yep.
and I don't think I've played in any game where you've come with an adventure ready to go.
No,
Yeah.
that's not how I do things. I like spontaneity.
Yeah, so if you get a chance to play on one of Brian's games, please do. It's a lot of fun. But
Thank
essentially,
you.
in my experience, how it works is Brian is like, Ted, roll a d20, Dave, roll a d12, whoever, roll a d4, and like so, like the adventure is just kind of being randomly rolled up as we play.
Yep. Then I jot down the little notes on my index card, and then before you know it, yep, this is how do we tie these things together? How do they interact with your characters? And then let's see
Yeah.
where it goes.
So, what do you think are the elements that make for a good sci-fi horror game?
For me, um, so it's going to be different. It's going to be very different for people because some people really like that terrifying, horrific aspect to it. Whereas me, I want it to be gross and weird, and I want there to be a little comedy because, like, I personally can only watch so much horror unless it's comedic horror, right?
Yeah,
Like I can watch one horror movie, like one serious, tense horror movie, and then I'm done for a while because I personally don't like to feel that anxiety that I get from those movies. So like, you throw in you throw in Slither, and it's people are fearing because there's weird alien creatures, and it like
yeah.
things are definitely going to happen. But then you throw in the gross, and then you throw in a little dash of funny, and that for me that's the perfect sci-fi horror.
Best best horror movie of all time. My wife will vehemently disagree with me. I don't know. I feel like we were away someplace, and I was just flipping through the channels, and I happened to catch this movie at the very beginning. One Eyed Monster, starring Ron Jeremy, and no, it's not a porn. It is.
I don't know how that can't be true that it's
No,
not
the
porn.
premise of the movie is they're shooting a porn someplace, and he gets hit by a meteor, and his junk comes to life and begins murdering everybody.
Oh gosh. All right, know
It's
what to
so
get you on
bad. It was
DVD for
just so
Christmas.
bad. It's hilarious.
My daughter's current favorite movie is Killer Clowns from Outer Space. I think like she was just introduced to it this Halloween season. She's probably watched it about like 8 times at this
Yeah,
point.
that is a classic. And also, if you already have maybe a clown phobia, that movie would be terrifying.
I don't know. They like there's very little emotion coming. Like there's not a whole lot of movement in the masks that they're wearing. But yeah, I could see if
Yeah.
you were afraid of
Except
clowns.
for when they're
It could.
eating things or people, I
Oh yeah,
should
true.
say. That's an old movie. How did your daughter discover that one?
Well, we were looking. So we were looking for things that were like horror comedy things
Yeah.
and things that weren't so terrifying because she's 8. and things that she would be comfortable with, and things that my son would be comfortable with. So that was one of them, and that's one I watched back in high school, and I
Yeah,
hadn't seen in quite a long time. I also may have thrown a couple of references in an upcoming Bass Grimm book
yeah.
to it. So I thought we should go back, and my wife started watching it with her first, but then I was like, we all need to go back and watch it, and just everybody's really enjoyed seeing it a couple times. I think I've probably watched it about twice since October started now.
That's another great terrible movie.
Hmm.
I mean, even Wizards of the Coast in the recent Spelljammer, they've thrown in clowns from outer space.
Did they? I did not know that.
Yeah, there's a fiend, and
Okay,
they're clowns, and it is in
nice,
Spelljammer, and they have their own, whatever their spheres, dimensions, whatever they're calling them in Spelljammer now, and it is full of those.
excellent. I've got some. They're a faction of space raiders. So essentially, they're
Okay.
one of the groups of space pirates that are killer clowns, and they have all sorts of fun weapons and interesting quirks to them for their
Oh, nice.
as a subclass. Yeah.
Like hand buzzers that electrocute people. I mean, all you have to do is look at the
Yes.
Joker's arsenal.
Yeah, totally. I think my favorite's probably balloon animals, and the different color balloons have
Yeah.
different toxins inside of them.
Oh, nice. So, for anyone, I guess anyone that doesn't know, let's delve a little bit more into Vast Grimm.
Sure.
At this point, I've played a handful of sessions. Folks can go and buy Vast Grimm now. Like you said, it's based off of Morkborg. But what was
Yes.
the inspiration for it?
So, my friend Ross ran a game of Morkborg for myself and my Atlanta friends, and I had only gotten the PDF at that point, and then we played, and I ordered the physical book as soon as like I saw my friend's copy, and once I downloaded it, or once I got the physical copy, I knew I wanted to make some sculpture that was dark and weird because I hadn't really sculpted a whole lot lately, like my previous like fantasy sculptures. So I did a Warhound, which is gray and black. Yes, I played Morkborg, and it was
I
amazing.
have both of them right
And
here.
I wanted to make a sculpture because I was inspired by that. And as soon as I made the sculpture, I was like, okay, I want this to be in a setting, but I don't want to put it in Morkborg because I like making my own stuff all the time. So I was like, I want to play science fiction. I want to play something in space because I had played a ton of fantasy stuff for so long. I wanted to mix it up. And so then I called Ross and I was like, hey, Ross, I'm going to make this sci-fi game based on Morkborg. Do you want to join in? And he was like, sure. And so we started bouncing ideas around together and started writing it as I started sculpting things. And then the second sculpture I made is the one that's on the cover. And then I got hired by Infinite Black about 2 months, like 2 months later or a month and a half later. I was like, hey, David, you want to publish this sci-fi horror game? I think it would fit with all the Infinite Black fans. And he saw what I had done. Played. I ran a Mork board game for him, so he would get more of the feel for it. And
Yeah.
before you know it, I was employed full time in the industry, and then I got to work on my own project as I was while doing other things for Infinite Black, and that's how it kind of came to be.
That that's the power move. Infiltrate a company and then get them to make the product you want. That is
Right?
actually how D&D Beyond came about.
Really? Well, and I did it dirty, right? Like I was like, okay, I was started doing it in November. Ross and I started working on it in November. I was like, okay, Christmas is coming up, and I sent David Morkborg for Christmas,
Oh,
and like
yeah,
because I
yeah,
was like, okay, I know that I love this book. I think
yeah,
he's gonna love this book, and it was just another way to be like, yeah, this is something we need to do.
yeah. I mean, it is a lot of fun, and you know, I think you did a really great job of capturing the Morkborg aesthetic, but putting your own spin on it.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, I wanted it to be. I wanted to have a. I wanted it to have the similar impact that it
Yeah,
had on me, but I wanted it to be different. I wanted there to be the sculptural elements. I wanted it to feel a little less metal because I'm not really into metal much. I'm much more into like poppy punk type stuff, and I wanted it to have that bright vibrancy and that kind of loud aesthetic too.
what punk band should someone listen to before playing Vast Grimm?
Well, there's quite a few. There's like references to some Misfits things in there. There's I know I think there was some quick bouncing souls references. There was a swing gutters reference at one point. So there's lots of different things. I mean, if you look in, like, one of the creatures is called Astro Zombies,
Yeah.
which is a Misfits song. So there's lots of like little Easter eggs riddled throughout it.
Is there a Vast Grim playlist?
There is not. Um, but I should probably throw something together.
That would definitely be cool to kind of give the feel for what it should be. So, do you have any pointers or tips for creating sci-fi adventures?
Um, so it depends for me, uh, especially with this. You want it to be feel like there isn't a whole lot of hope. I mean, that's part of Morkborg and part of Astrum. The universe is ending. Everything's on its way out, and I think that's part of the fun of playing in it is people feel like they can let loose and just go all the way in with their character because they don't think their character is going to survive. Most people don't. So if you put the weirder, stranger things in that people aren't expecting in science fiction,
Yeah.
for me, I think that's what helps add to it because if it's something that they've seen before or something that they know of, it's easier for as a player to wrap their head around. And sometimes you want to challenge that and make it just feel just enough off that it feels alien to them.
Did you draw any particular inspiration from one place in media or another when putting together Vast Grim?
I mean, I think everything's influenced by all of our experiences. So, I mean, from cartoons to video games to
Yeah.
movies to like all the games that I played, I think it all influenced heavily. It's just hard to really, for me, it's hard to dissect that and determine what it all came from. But I mean, yeah, everything that we do, I think, influences all of it more. But I wanted it to be more science fantasy, so I definitely leaned more into Firefly or Star Wars than I did into Star Trek, just because I was never good at science.
Yeah. For
Just as I just couldn't, my brain just didn't get the stuff like it should have.
you don't want to just make up a bunch of fancy words and stick them together and pretend to be something.
Well, there are things like that in like components and parts of the starships.
Yeah.
In one of the other like future books that I'm working on, it's like, okay, here's a word, take this word and this word and put it together, and this is the part that's broken on the spaceship.
Yeah, yeah. The flux capacitor.
Right, exactly.
So, who are the big bads in Vast Grim? Who are we afraid of?
Ah, yes. So, 663 years ago, the Six, they were these religious zealots. They worshipped Fatuma, and they went to the mausoleum of Day. This is a giant monolith on K2116b, and they used magical tributes. These pieces that when they used them together, they were able to unlock this door to this mausoleum. And all six of them became infected with these parasites, and each of them with a different parasite. So they all became infected with these worms. They're the six worms that players can get infected with in the game. And as the worms, if the worms accept you as a host, as they grow and take over, eventually you become one of the Grimm. Um, your face gets all crackled and skin splits apart with pink, neon pink lines. Your eyes have a glowing blue color, and you are no longer your character, and you are just trying to infect everyone else. So the big bad is the Grimm, who over the past 663 years have pretty much taken over most of the universe. They're trying to consume everything, and as a player, you may be trying to fight back. You may be trying to hide and just live what's left of the life that you could live and scavenge what you can, or you may be trying to find pieces of a fabled gate of infinite stars that we put a couple of hints at. Depends on how the GM runs it, but in my mind, it's like six pieces, and once they're all together, then boom, you can go to a different universe or a parallel place, and hopefully the Grim won't follow you.
And one of the elements is all right. Now, I'm not sure if I'm confusing Work for or Vast Grim here, but you've got torments. or more vast
So,
torments.
so we have torments.
Yes.
But like I modeled Vasgrim off of Morkborg. So where it runs parallel with what they have. So there are these prophecies, the torments. There's 66 of them, and when
Yeah.
7 of them occur, the universe is over. And at the beginning of each day in game, you roll to see if a torment has occurred. And if so, if it does occur, then a prophecy, one of these prophecies is read, and it actually happens somewhere in the universe, not necessarily where the campaign is or where the players are, but it's happening somewhere.
It's narrative that may affect the narrative that's going on, but doesn't have to.
Right.
But if you've once you've run out of the torments, the game is essentially over. The campaign.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if 7 torments occur, no, it doesn't matter which one, since there are 66 of them. But if 7 torments occur, when the time of the 7th torment is inflicted upon the verse, they will have consumed all. The gate of infinite stars will have been shattered, and humanity will be lost forever. There is no point in continuing on. Give in to the vast grim and become one with they.
Me and Ted had kind of talked about because like the way the torments work is you start with a die, and when you
Mhm.
roll a 1 on it, a torment happens, and then the die steps down.
Yes.
So if you start with a D20, like it could be a long time, but like every single day that you're in game time, you're rolling for a torment, right?
Right. So it could happen quickly. It could happen. I've had, since working on it, I've had campaigns go for a long time and the world hasn't come to an end.
Yeah,
But that's also sometimes the luck of the die as well. And also like how close you want to be when you start. Some people, they start the game and they're like, we want it to be the very end. Let's roll a D2, like the game we played Tuesday night.
yeah,
Like, and if we continue that game on, you're just rolling a D2 each time, because you can't go back up from there. So
yeah.
chances are this universe is going to come to an end. Not all of the characters are going to
It
make
may
it to the
it
point to
may
see it
like if we
happen.
decide to turn it into a series, and it may only be 7 sessions.
Right. Yeah, especially if you're rolling.
Yes, especially if I'm rolling. You don't want me rolling your torments, that's for sure.
No. Or piloting, especially when corkscrewing.
Listen, the corkscrew is the ultimate maneuver. We've seen several times it has been used very well. Just generally not
Yes.
by my characters. So, and also is in Morkborg they don't do the die step down, do they?
It's implied. So, and that's where and it's only implied in Baskroom as well. So I've just kind of, that's how I've
Okay.
always positioned it. So I think it's really going to be up to the GM and the table, but that's how it seems like. Okay, a torment occurred. Yeah, that dies off the table now. You can't use that.
Yeah, I like that aspect of it. And like me and Ted, when we did our video on Vast Grim, we even kind of talked about like a goal for the players could be to finding the gate so that they can leave it all behind
Right.
and go somewhere else. But technically, if the Grim were to follow them somehow,
Yes.
it would just all start all over again.
Exactly. You just have longer, but most likely because it
Yeah.
would take a while for the Grim to infest that universe. But I mean, that's kind of how I would see it. I would see it
Start with the
like
D66.
right, and it's like sliders or something where you're just boom, you're in a new place now,
Yeah.
and you have to start over. And now you're going to warn everybody, and are they going to believe you? Are you going to be the ones that they consider to be like the six, the evil ones who brought this hell upon this new universe?
I mean, in theory, right? Like because you can get infected with a worm and still play for a while. In theory, you could
Right.
literally have the worm piggybacking on you.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can, I mean, because you can, as long as you keep rolling okay, like as long as like once you're infected,
Yeah.
if you roll the toughness test properly, you can have parasitic pleasure, and where the worm is working with you in your body for a long time. And eventually it could go with you, or eventually your body could reject it. So there's lots of ways to survive being infected, but there's also a very easy way to die too.
Yeah, like and that was one of the things I didn't quite get when I first played first couple times because like, wait a minute, somebody's got a worm, we gotta space them right away. Like
Right.
it's like a zombie bite to me, when I first started playing, it's like, oh, we just got to put them down now.
Which, I mean, realistically, characters in that situation would probably do that because the chance of infection amplifies
Yeah.
once somebody close to you is infected. I mean, I had you guys rolling Tuesday a couple of times to see if you got infected. Nobody did because you were within close enough range with these infected creatures to actually get it.
Yeah. What is it? Is it 1 in 6 you get infected?
It depends on the creature. So, like,
Okay.
some of them were the Grimm were 1 in 6, but some of the other ones I had you rolling like D12s and stuff like that. So,
Yeah, and that's another like interesting and fun quirk to the game is like you could be in a conflict and winning handily, but like if they're infected with the Grim or are the Grim or they're infected with the worms, you're still in danger.
yeah, yeah, that's why like a lot of close combat weapons like that stuff you're putting yourself at much higher risk when you're getting up close and personal with the baddies.
Yeah, for sure. So what kind of experiences have you seen at the table? Like anything like crazy yet that you weren't expecting? I mean, just in general as GMs, I feel like at some point or another, players are going to surprise you. But this is a new game. Have they surprised you in your own game yet?
So very early on, like some of the classes that you can play are not nice classes. There's some evil classes like worshippers of they that want the end of the universe to come. There's
Harvesters are
harvesters.
weird.
Yeah, they go and like take the worms out of the dead bodies and sell them on the black market or sell them to whoever. And um, David from Infinite Black was playing a harvester, and he found a worm in one of the spaceships that somebody was keeping in like a terrarium, like hamster type cage,
Yeah,
and he loved this worm. And one of the other players, Bill, he wanted that worm dead, and David just ended up venting his other legionnaire off the ship, um, because and which I totally wasn't expecting that group to go in that direction at all, because it
yeah,
like half of the legion went very dark, the other half was like hell no, stay away from the worms,
yeah.
and the most vocal of those people was then shot out the ship.
Yeah. Little Brook no dissent on this. In there, lock
Yep.
and go. When you say the terrarium, it definitely makes me think of Wrath of Khan.
Yeah, I mean, that was as a kid going into the ear. That was terrifying.
Not even that. Like the whole scene from the beginning, when he gets the gloves and the tongs, and he
Right.
shakes it out of out of the sand, and then he pulls the little babies out of the
Ugh.
ridges in the back.
Right.
Very
Yes.
visceral.
Yes. Yeah. I was not ready for that when it came on the screen.
No, no. I feel like that gave us a lot of nightmares arose from that scene, and
Yes.
and I don't think it was something you were expecting from a Star Trek movie.
No. Yeah. Definitely not.
So, any inspiration from there for you?
Probably. And I just did. I probably just didn't even think about it until you talking about it now. Because yeah, I mean, as a kid,
Subconsciously, yeah.
yeah, I totally saw that, and I was creeped out by that severely. I was not. I was very squeamish as a kid. I'm still kind of squeamish. So
Yeah. What is the most standout horror scene for you, like growing up as a kid, that you still like remember? Like that was defining.
well, so like we just watched Nightmare on Elm Street with my son, but
Yeah.
as a kid, like it was such a big deal that my friend Matt across the street, I was going over to his house for a sleepover, and we were going to watch that,
Yeah.
and like just the it's not nearly as terrifying as modern horror movies now, but like just hearing the claws scraping across the pipe down in the boiler room area beneath the school was like I had a hard time going to sleep that night.
In hindsight, it was very cartoonish in
Yes,
some of it.
absolutely. Oh,
So
somebody dilated people said the fly. That's another one. The
mm,
black and white fly. We there was a community college in the town that I grew up in, and they had a Halloween. thing, like you could go and you went to a room and watched it on like one of a
Yeah.
projector screen, and when they're put the head and the hand in the giant press, that was creepy.
Yeah. Although I mean the one with Jeff Goldblum
Hmm.
had some pretty horrific moments in it as well.
Sure.
For me, I want to say the one that I remember the most was American Werewolf in London, and the transformations. Some of the dreams were pretty crazy,
Uh
but
huh.
sequences. But the first time you see him transform into the wolf
Hmm.
was like the most disgusting, horrific thing I'd ever seen at that point. And I remember that giving me nightmares for a long time.
That's awesome. I can imagine it still like every now and again happening, like just out of the blue. Like tonight, you're gonna be like, why am I thinking about werewolves?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, but seeing like everything move under the skin and the hairs
Uh
poke through
huh.
the flesh and the bones snapping and breaking and the
Yeah.
the way the jaw would broke and elongated.
Yep. Totally.
Yeah, so I have not actually watched any horror movies in a while because my wife doesn't like horror movies, so
Hmm.
we tend to watch stuff together.
Yep, I get that. My wife likes horror movies way more than me, and is into
Yeah,
much scarier stuff than me. So I like try
yeah,
to like scooch by on the funnier, lighter, grosser ones during Halloween.
yeah, yeah, yeah. My daughter also likes horror stuff, so I remember it's funny. Like she was like 3 at the time, or 3 or 4. She was real little. And I just happened to be flipping through the channels, and she like freaked out because I passed something. And she wanted me to go to back. It was like Lake Placid.
Yep.
So I think some people just like inherently have the horror gene.
Yeah, I think so. I don't think I'm tough enough for some of the really scary stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess growing up, like I watched all the all the Jasons, and I mean
Yep.
Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street, Hellraiser, like the Hellraiser series.
Yep.
That stuff was
Yep.
all the any of the Clive Barker stuff
Hmm.
was really good. I tried to get my daughter to go back and watch Through the Mouth of Madness, and I watched her with her, and it just didn't hold up. I don't know if because I was kind of a stoner when I was a teenager and watched it, or
Sure. I
or if it
mean,
just
things
doesn't
have
hold up.
changed.
Yeah,
Sure.
it might just be another instance of don't go back. It's never as good as you remember
Right.
it. Like I know Ted talks about trying to watch Gen 1 Transformers with his son. He's like, "Oh, this is so bad."
Oh, I'm sure. I haven't tried to watch that, but I can only imagine. I mean, loving it as a kid and going back and seeing it now, I would just think that's the stories are probably just super hokey and
The
uh,
stories, the animation, the
mhm.
uh what would my son always call it? Like movies with effects. He wouldn't call them effects. Um he would say something weird, something very like digital, like whether it was graphics or I think he'd call
Uh-huh.
it graphics. He's like, these graphics suck. And I'm like, well, they're
Yep.
not graphics at all.
It's
They're
cell animation.
or no, it was like traditional special effects, conventional
Oh,
special
okay. Yeah.
effects. Yeah. Like I know you
As
guys
much
are.
traditional that can get in it now is so much better. I'd
Oh
love to
yeah,
see
yes.
that.
Well, and that's it too. Like even like everything evolves.
Right.
The storytelling, the acting. All you have to do is go back and watch old Shatner. Right? Like,
Yep.
um, so um, when you guys started thinking about doing Wormfest, what was it that made you decide to use this particular software?
I'd seen something about it. I'd seen somebody using it um, for like an office simulator, basically, like
Yeah,
a virtual office. And I saw it, and I watched some of the YouTube videos, and I saw it, and I was like, wow, okay. For me, I don't enjoy interacting with people online.
yeah.
I don't like it. I'm not good at it.
It's
But
weird.
this, the right, you know, like I second guess myself. I don't like typing to people. I like talking to people.
Yeah.
And so when I saw this and saw that it's got the video stuff built in and that you can walk up to somebody and actually whoop, the video appears and you're actually chatting with them. And then I can just be like, Dave, I'm out of here. And I just like move my
Run
character
away.
away and then I'm gone. Yeah. It's like, I don't want to talk anymore. That is what really got me. And like, it's so cute, which is funny because this game's supposed to be so gross. I love like the contrast
Yeah.
of that, but really what sold me is the video aspect and being able to like actually walk around and talk to people and make it feel a little more like real life.
Yeah, it is kind of it is interesting in that sense. And I think it's cool that you're able to do the layout for the convention, but it's on, it's on a spaceship. It's themed.
Right. And that definitely took a little bit of work in trying to get it to like they have all the tools built in to do things yourself and like
Yeah.
use like tiled images and build out rooms and things like that. But I wanted it to feel like one of the Vast Grimm ships. So I had to import my own art and scale it and tweak it and scale it and tweak it until it was just right.
Nice. I could definitely see doing it as a dungeon. I don't know, maybe
Mhm.
we'll have a zoo one day for people to walk through.
That would be awesome. I could totally see that, like a big zoo area, and you go in and at the different exhibits or where
Hmm.
different games are or where different events are happening.
Yep.
Yes, I will walk you through the basics of this.
I feel like there is no way I could ever make that a reality without hiring someone.
Yeah.
The converting the art part of it sounds like it's probably very, very technical.
Well, I mean, once you have, say, you have
Yeah.
the map in your upcoming book, right, of the zoo,
Yeah.
you could have that, and then kind of like when we walked into the exhibit hall room,
Yeah.
just have it be like you go through a door and boom, you're in a different room, and that's just a more basic room where everything's set up. So you could still use the map from Zoo Mafia.
Okay, I see what you're saying. It's like
Yeah.
just it would be less interactive than the way you've got it set up.
Right, right. But the common areas, like say, like the walking paths and things like
Yeah.
that, all around the zoo could be interactive and like where there's open space like that.
It is interesting to see what they do with it, and also to see if how they respond in the future. Like for the video aspect of it, will there be a screen that you can use and plug into, um,
Right.
which would be nice. But because I remember when we were doing Saver Dice, and I was interacting with Mike Hunt from Unmade Gaming, and a lot of the streamers use Zoom, and so he was
Hmm.
having an issue with Zoom, so he called them, and then was like, "Hey, this is what I'm doing, and here's my problem," and they're like, "Wait a minute, you're doing what with it?" Like there's
Right.
a market there that they weren't even aware of that was using their
Hmm.
product. Um, so maybe if this kind of thing catches on, you know either this company or another company will step up and be like, oh, what are some other ways that we can
Right.
tailor to those markets?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you could tie like payment processors into like vendor booths and stuff like
Yeah,
that, or there's all sorts of crazy things that
like
can
a
be
pop
done.
up, almost like a menu of like store items,
Right. Exactly. Yep.
where they could, like you said, put it right into your cart or whatever.
Hmm.
That that would be really cool from the vending standpoint. And I mean, anyone who's done any sales, you let someone walk away, you're not gonna get the sales. So you need to you capture your audience right there and then.
Yep, exactly. No, I think I'm going to think on this. Yeah, that doesn't translate to they're not buying my book.
Yeah, yeah, right. We all rely on impulses, impulse
Yep,
buy,
yep,
and also too, everyone's just busy, right? And everything there's like
yeah,
so much stuff warring for everyone's attention. It's just easy to forget about something. Like in the moment, you're like, "Oh, this is cool. I want this thing," and
totally.
then you're like, "Squirrel," right? So
Yep, especially like at a real convention when there's so
so
much to look
much.
at.
Yeah,
Yep,
yeah. You're just being inundated over and over again. So
yep,
I mean, and also the plus to this is you're not standing on a concrete floor for 8
true. Yeah, I'll be standing on my wobble board.
hours. Do you have a standing desk?
I have sit stand, so I stand about like half of the day,
Yeah.
um, and then sit the rest of it. So yeah,
Do you stand on a wobble board?
I do. It's like a balancing board because it's softer and it seems to not bother my back by like being able to shift my weight around.
What kind do you use?
I don't know. I can find out. I can find where I
Okay,
got it.
that's not like. So I've used different ones for different things like training, and they have different kinds.
Hmm.
Like they have the
Hmm.
ones that look like skateboards, and
Uh-huh.
they're just on like a roller, and it goes back and
Oh
forth.
gosh, yeah, no, I couldn't stay on a roller for like while I'm working and like doing stuff. I
Then
would bust my ass.
there's others that are like a 360 swivel.
Uh huh.
Um,
Oh, that would be
but
fun.
yeah, but it also it trains your core the whole time.
Right.
So I guess that's good if you're into that. That's what
I
I was
just need
wondering. I
to
was
I
like,
just need to be up a little bit for my try and get better posture.
yeah, I was thinking, is Brian a skateboarder? Is he out there, tearing it up?
So I rode a skateboard in middle school and part of high school, but I was
Yeah,
not ever into tricks. I
yeah,
was very good at using it to get from point A to point B, but I
uh,
was never very good at actually busting any moves. I did
yeah.
design, almost finished designing a Bass Grim skateboard though.
Oh, nice.
Yep. Maybe one day I'll get it
It's got
printed.
the right aesthetic for it.
Yep.
There was
Totally.
a there wasn't like a lot of skateboard kids in our neighborhood. There was like a couple. It was more like dirt bikes
Hmm.
and BMX and that kind of stuff. You know, and also that was very different because you're like, I got a great idea. You five guys lay on the ground right there next to the ramp.
And I'm gonna jump you.
We're
Yep.
gonna jump
I was
you.
never I never got to skateboard with the cool skateboard kids. It was just
Yeah,
me and my friends, the nerdy skateboard kids. That was like, okay, I'm gonna come over to your house. I'm gonna ride my skateboard. And
yeah. I feel like it's more of like a West Coast thing.
hmm, yeah, I could see that. Like I lived in a neighborhood that was a bunch of townhouses and then single family houses all in the neighborhood.
Yeah,
So it was easy. It was easier to. I mean, I could have ridden a bike, but it was easy to just grab the skateboard, run, go ride, and then carry it if I didn't want to just carry it under my arm if we were going into the comic book store or whatever.
I live in the same town I grew up in. Like I moved away and came back. I didn't go far, but it's very like it's weird because it's not suburbs, but it's not quite rural either. It's like somewhere's in between. It's like pockets of suburbia all over this rural area. And like
Gotcha.
and the area where I grew up in was called the Lakes because there was a bunch of lakes. And also but also a bunch of like it's like the Pine Barrens, so there's a bunch of trails and fire trails and stuff like that.
Uh huh.
And we had like we had a quarry and we would go over there and ride our bikes and you would do that for as much as you could until the guy with the loader came and chased you out.
Yep.
But like
Hmm.
thinking back now, like they were like 20-30 foot drops that we just like ride our bikes
Yep.
down.
It's a lot easier to be
That was
fearless
before
when you
helmets.
just kind of
Helmets
think.
didn't exist.
Totally.
It was definitely it was a bit of a different time, and then also like always like playing in the woods and trails and stuff like that. I think that's a big part of why like I'm into RPGs now
Uh huh.
is because growing up like that, like I feel like really tweaks your imagination, and I was
Uh
just one of the ones that was just not willing to give it up.
huh. That's good. Yeah. I mean, we shouldn't give it up. We should play make believe for as long as we can.
Bill Allen kids on bikes, yeah, essentially like that term came from someplace.
Yep. Totally.
And back then, like you would go out. Your parents would tell you to go out and play. At least in my house, and my mom would be like, "Go out and play," and then the door would shut behind you, and you hear the lock click behind you. And like
Yeah.
it's
You
like
didn't come back till it was dark.
you didn't come back till it was dark or to eat or whatever.
Right.
We free range.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So, um, and now like it's funny because the kids on bike is become almost like there's the game, and now it's become like a genre. And
Hmm. Yep.
we also had a bunch of those movies that are like that. Like for our Halloween special, we used Cipher System, but we basically played like a kids on bike style adventure.
Yep. Hmm.
And it's just weird to see our childhoods come back as a genre.
See us trying to desperately go back and be kids again.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Although I can't imagine like the fate of the town relying on me and my friends. It sounds like a terrible plot.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, so the town I grew up in, there was a military base in town, and they did all
Yeah.
sorts of research and things like that. So I always thought there was all sorts of weird, evil stuff going on that military base. So that would be a very easy one to roll into that type of scenario.
You got a game you're working on that's based around that, don't you?
I did, but I pushed that off to the side because I want to try and focus everything I can on Bass Grim to make it as rad as possible.
Yeah. Are you still working on Over the Troll Bridge too?
That's about to go to the printer, and then that'll
Yeah.
go out to backers. But I'm pretty much going to focus all of my energy on Bass Grim at least for the next year
Yeah.
or so, and see what we can do with it.
So what
Because
you're
really, I
saying,
want this to. Let's go ahead.
so what you're saying is your eyes were a little bit bigger than your plate.
That and like if I'm doing a bunch of different things,
Yeah.
it's harder to make one thing as awesome as it could be.
No, I
Right?
agree. I agree. I commend you for actually recognizing that and be like, wait a minute. I can either do a bunch of things mediocrely, or I can just focus on this one thing and make it awesome.
It took me a while because
Yeah.
I've been doing a bunch of different things for a long time. But yeah, that's and I'm this is the one I'm most excited about anyway. So why not go all the way in with that one?
That you have to sometimes try different things to figure that out anyway, right?
Yeah, totally.
I was talking to a master of the game the other day, and I was telling him about Zoo Mafia, and he was breaking my balls because he's like, "I thought you guys said you don't need to make any new games," and it is something we said that like we personally would probably not make any new games because we haven't been
Hmm.
inspired to make any new games, and we don't know what we would do that the existing game doesn't already do, right?
Right.
And then like in our first design diary, that's one of the first things we address is yes, we absolutely did say this, and at the end of the video, we point to the video where we said it,
That's awesome.
because we try to be self-aware, but up until that point that we decided to do a thing, we didn't feel a need to do the thing.
Right.
And
But when it hits hard. And
yes,
that's and you have to follow that and see where it takes you.
yeah, and that's it. And that's why I love having people like yourself and others on who are making different games. And I love to kind of delve into why they wanted to make the game and what motivated them to do it. Because I've talked to a lot of different people, and I've gotten a lot of like really cool and interesting answers that I can 100% get behind. Occasionally, get to
Yep.
like, oh, I just want to do something different, and to me, I'm like, whatever. Um, but like when I hear someone and they're like, well, I wanted to do this specific thing, and I couldn't find anything else that does it, so I had to make it.
Hmm. Yep.
And like those stories to me are always the coolest. What motivates you to make new games?
What motivates me to make new game? I mean, well, this one was just like being inspired by Morkborg. So that was like, I really want to do that.
Yeah.
Usually when I'm creating something new, it's something that I want to plan or I want to
Yo,
GM in
how's that
really
working out for
because I
you?
don't play. Yeah, no, so I don't really get to play ever. So it's something I want to GM in.
Yeah.
It's something a setting that I want other people to be able to tell stories in. So like this, like I really wanted to. I didn't want to play. I wanted to play more sci-fi stuff, and Ross, who ran the Morkborg game, had run a Starfinder game, and it was just like that. I don't want that many rules. I don't
Yeah.
want all that. There's too much lore and all that that's already built. I want it to be weird and out there, and like I want something where I can wipe the slate clean. And this is my mark. This is the weird stuff that I'm say is going on, but also leave it open enough so that other people can fill in the holes and make it their own. Right?
So, would you say with Vast Grimm, it's more about the setting than it is about the rules?
Oh yeah, totally.
Like,
Yeah, the rules can come or go. Take them like leave them in, leave them out as you're playing, but the overall tone and everything should be there.
And yeah, and that's something that I agree with a lot too. And like that's the one of the things that I think like some of the feedback we've been getting is like without even trying to, or like we've had people go, you've developed a lot of lore and a rich setting, and like all we've really done is play in it. And because
Uh huh.
I think me and you are similar in the sense that we like rules light and ambiguous, and you know a little bit more loosey goosey than hard defined. Go to
Yes,
page
absolutely.
63, paragraph 4.
Yep. Yeah, if you can fit all the real rules into like a small area, and the
Yeah.
rest of it's just adds to the flavor, that's where I want to be.
Yeah. I think our quick start at doc is like 12 pages. And that's like with four of the character sheets, playbooks,
Yep.
which are each, yeah, they're each one page, and then the adventure, and then the rest of it is kind of the rules. And I feel like we can even streamline those too. We just haven't gotten there yet.
Sure. Yeah.
So yeah, I like something that's digestible. You can just jump in and start playing.
Yeah. Absolutely. People click on a button, have a character, and then they're ready to play and get a sense of the game by reading the character sheet and get a sense of who they are. That's ideal.
That is awesome. Yeah, and also your random generator is a lot of fun. And I was surprised because I still like I've clicked on that thing like it feels like hundreds of times at this point, and I feel like occasionally I still see something I haven't seen before.
Good. Hopefully that'll keep happening, and hopefully I'll sneak more things in, and then I'll be like,
Yeah,
what the hell is that?
yeah, for sure. So we're just past the hour mark. Final thoughts before we head on out.
Please come join us and play at Wormfest next weekend, November 12th and 13th. It's a free online convention, vastgrim.com/wormfest. Come hang out and get to know other RPG players and talk, hang out, play some games. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for coming on, everyone. Hopefully, I'll see you at Wormfest. Me and Ted will be there. I believe I'm going to be there Saturday. Ted will be there Sunday. I think I'm doing one of the panels. I think I agreed to
Yeah,
something
I'll
where we're
get you
gonna.
the details on that.
So folks can come check that out. It'll be a lot of fun, and I'm also thinking about running a session of Zoo Mafia. So if I get enough players, I'll
Yes.
definitely run. With that, until next time, stay nerdy.
Stay nerdy.